Hey everybody, I'm Delicia. Thanks for tuning into the Cigar Vixen channel. So today, as promised, I'm going to be doing a pairing of the Gentleman Jack and Villiger's La Vencedora cigar. Since I did a full review of the cigar on its own, I'm going to start off with the Tennessee whiskey or bourbon, whichever you prefer to call it. We'll go by their name, which is the Tennessee whiskey. Pour it in my little glass here. So first off, what makes Jack a gentleman? Well, this particular blend or the particular whiskey actually goes through a double mellowing process. So what that means is that right away it goes through the charcoal, like most spirits. So the raw spirit itself gets filtered through the charcoal. Then it goes into the barrel and matures in the barrel, and then afterwards, this is where it's different than, let's say, the Jack Daniel's number 7. It gets a secondary process through that charcoal filtering to kind of smooths it out, actually substantially smooths it out, mellows it quite a bit. And from my understanding, it's not just regular charcoal, it's a sugar, some sort of a sugary charcoal or something that's a lot sweeter. So it gives those sweeter notes to it. So that's the first off, and it tells you that all over the bottle. It's double mellowed. Yeah, it actually says double mellowed through the charcoal smoothness and all of that. That's the claim to fame. Price point, from what I could find, and I did go off of the Jack Daniel's website because, of course, you can buy spirits in a lot of different places. I'm sure there's sales and deals. So I just went from their actual website to compare the pricing for you guys. So a bottle, 750 milliliters of the number 7 was going for $31 and the Gentleman Jack for $41. So it wasn't quite as big of a difference than what I thought it would be. I thought it was like double the price, but it's not. It's not like 10 bucks more. So again, depending on where you buy it, what size bottle, all of those things, but kind of just to give you a general idea. Now, as I mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and just look into this. Now, the color itself is a nice, not super dark. It's a nice amber color. You can see that it coats the glass very beautifully. And of course, like all American whiskey, it's 100% natural. The coloring, they're not allowed to add any sort of artificial coloring to it. So what you see is coming straight from it sitting in the barrel and maturing. So to the nose. Well, right away, of course, you pick up that solvent type of, I don't know if you call it an aroma, smell. And when you get past that, you do pick up a darker caramel hint of a mild vanilla. But you can tell right away it's smooth. It's definitely, if you were to do this comparison side by side with the number 7, it would, somewhat kind of burn a little bit. This one is very mellow. It's significantly smoother. So let's go ahead and taste it. So I'm actually going to add a little tiny bit of water to it to kind of open it up. It is what is the proof? 80 proof. So maybe just like a little tiny bit of water there. Room temperature water. You can already tell it just opens it up when you add that little tiny bit of water. It's funny, it makes such a big difference. So pick up the caramel for sure. You pick up a kind of a dark cherry, a little bit of a dark cherry, vanilla, obviously. Not a lot of oakiness to it, and the spice is just kind of I actually didn't get much spice before I added the water. Now that I added that little tiny bit of water, it picked up a little bit more of a spicy, kind of a musky spice, allspice, if you will, something like that. Not like a sharp spiciness to it. And it's more so on the finish. The finish is fairly brief. It's not lingering. Let me see how, I didn't really pay attention to the coating. So it coats a little bit, kind of a buttery, light butter, leaves a hint of like that oily feel, not as strong or anything, but you can kind of pick up that residue, that coating that it leaves, on your palate. So really nice. And again, much more of a smoother taste to it, a feel overall, not at all like that sharp bite that you get. In fact, I don't know anybody that drinks the Jack number 7 straight. I'm sure maybe there's some people out there. I don't really drink it that often, but if I do, it's definitely mixed with something that's not really, in my opinion, that's not really a whiskey that you would drink straight up. It definitely could benefit from being mixed. Whereas this one, you could drink it just as I'm drinking it now. You could add some ice to it if you wanted it on the rocks. Again, just a little bit of water makes a big difference. It really did open it up and it gave it a little bit more of that spiciness. But yeah, so off to a good start. I'm going to go ahead and light up my cigar here and jump back in to talk about those flavor notes together now that I've had a clean palate with just the whiskey. And I'm going to go grab that cigar and join you guys back here in a moment. So adding the Villiger La Vencedora to the mix here with the Gentleman Jack. It's a nice pairing. It's something that's different for me. I do a lot of rum and wine. Those are kind of like the go-tos. I do drink bourbon sometimes, depending on the season and what I'm smoking and all those things. So this is nice. Definitely pick up different notes. With the cigar alone, it is more of a fuller bodied. It does stand up to the Gentleman Jack, I've noticed, as far as just the initial, introduction, not overpowering. You can pick up both tasting notes. With the cigar, you get a little bit more of the woodsy. You do pick up spice to it as well. Kind of a hint of the black pepper. You also get a little bit of cinnamon. And together, you really do pull out a little bit of a sweeter side. So you get, I believe the cigar by itself had more of the, hints of like a dark chocolate kind of in there. So together it's interesting because you do pick up the sweeter, but you still get more of an oaky, like a woodsy, oaky is a good term to use when they're together. Whereas when I was drinking the whiskey on its own, I didn't pick up as much of that woodsiness. So the cigar actually brings out a little bit of that. But it's nice. I mean, they're definitely complements to each other. And I'm one of those people that will argue that you can't really have a bad pairing if you like it. So I know there's people that have these rules and they'll say, okay, if you have that, you can't mix it with that. I think if it tastes good together and you're enjoying it, then it's a good pairing. That's my theory. I always tell people. So this one, to me, it tastes good. Again, complementing each other. Not one is overpowering the other. They're both kind of, harmonious in that sense. But yeah, so far so good. I was reading a little bit about the history of Jack Daniel, not the company, but the man, because I'm a history buff. So I found it fascinating to read some of there's like these different stories floating around, which I don't know if you call them legends, but they're stories, and I don't know how many of them have been actually confirmed because of the dates, and these things date back to like the 1800s. But one of them was that, let's see, his birth date was incorrect on his tombstone. So like it was off by a few years, which was a thing to talk about because there was a rumor or a story that he actually started moonshining the whiskey as a teenager, which again, if the birth date on the tombstone was right, then that wouldn't be correct. But if it was wrong, then that would be correct. Something like that. It was kind of like there's off by a few years. Either way, he was fairly young when he started, creating the whiskey. Another thing that I found interesting about him was the presentation. So he was one of the first people to start stenciling the name of his distillery on the whiskey jugs, which back then they were still in a jug when he first brought them out. Then he moved to like a custom personalized, I guess it was a glass. I think it was glass. It was like a custom engraved bottle, it just said. But then in like, I think it was late 1800s, almost 1900s, like 1895, a glass salesman showed him a square bottle, and then that was it. So he definitely, stood out amongst the other bottles available because one, it was a square, most of them were round, and it also added that whole thing with, transporting the whiskey, that it didn't roll around because they were square bottles. So if you take notice of the original Jack Daniel's No. 7 bottle, it has that nice square shape to it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Also, apparently he never married. He was quite the ladies' man, and he liked much younger women, like significantly younger, like young enough to be his daughter, granddaughter, that kind of thing. So anyways, the sad thing is that he died pretty kind of like a fluke accident. He stubbed his toe, or he kicked a safe or something that led to bruising his foot, which caused blood poisoning, which led to gangrene and then amputation, which led to death after like 5 years of having his leg amputated after just kicking a safe and stubbing his toe. So kind of sad, story for somebody to go. But anyways, cheers to Jack Daniel's on that note. But I'm going to continue to enjoy my pairing. I'm going to check back in one last time with any shift in the flavors and talk to you about that. So checking back in with the pairing of the Villiger, La Vencedora, and the Gentleman Jack. I have done one refill, and I'm down to the last third of La Vencedora. Great combination of flavors. In fact, with every sip that you take, and then you take a puff to follow it, you get this incredible sweet fruit, apricot notes. You pick up a little bit of the cherry, hints, like lingering hints of a caramel. Really nice, but really noticeable on the dried fruit. So again, the apricot, the cherry, just like a pretty straightforward fruitiness, which is really nice. I wasn't expecting that. And again, really pronounced when you put the two together. So a great combination. Again, with the cigar by itself, you had more of the dark chocolates. You had a little bit of the brown sugar, a little bit of the the woodsy profile, which in the beginning, it drew out a little bit of that oakiness from the whiskey, where again, putting them together, it just kind of changed them to where they have a different type of a sweetness, but still really nice. A great marriage of flavors, highly recommended, especially again, depending on what you're looking to do for your pairing. I mentioned that on the last monthly pairing that I did, that one was a forced timeout because of the price points, and they were both, the rum and the cigar that I did the pairing on before were much higher in that price point, to where, again, you want to have a lot of time to sit there and enjoy every sip, every puff. And the same goes for this. Even though the price points are significantly lower, you still want to force yourself to have that timeout. That's the purpose of a pairing. I could see doing this type of a pairing, though, for example, if you host a poker night at your house or at your cigar lounge, or just having some friends over for a cigar and a drink. This is a great way to go. It's not going to break the bank. Again, with the cigar, you have 3 different options on the size. The prices are going to range from about $9 to $10 depending on the size of the stick. So great price point on the cigars. And then again, the Gentleman Jacks, I don't know, you could probably get it. I've seen it lower than the $41 that I quoted, depending on if you buy from like Bevmo, or even Target sometimes has it. I mean, there's lots of different places that carry the Gentleman Jack, which is a nice benefit to using this as a pairing. You can find it in a lot of places. So again, still a forced timeout, but one that it's not going to break the bank so much. And really the different notes that I picked up were just great. So highly recommend that you give this one a try. I'd love to hear your feedback if you've had the Gentleman Jack before, if you've smoked La Vencedora, if you've tried the two together. What is your, what are your thoughts? What's your feedback? So as always, I appreciate you all tuning in, and thank you so much for joining me, and I can't wait to see you next time. Cheers.